The government always trying to solve our problems, right? Well, today we're going to talk about the tax-free first-time homebuyer savings account that they created. Is it useless? Is it even needed? I'm not 100% opposed to it. I understand what they're trying to do, but I want to shed some light on it. And you ask yourself, well, what is this FSHA program? We already have one of those. It's called a tax-free savings account. Every Canadian has a tax-free savings account that they can put money into and withdraw tax-free. But what they're trying to do is now offer another account where young Canadians who haven't bought a home are allowed to add additional funds into this tax-free savings account. So what it does is kind of acts as an additional buffer to their tax-free savings account so that they can save an additional money for their house. What they're actually doing is forcing you to save more money and keep it within the banking system, all right? So that's what they really want. They want us, our young Canadians, to keep saving their money in the Canadian banking system. What this will do is force young Canadians to save money and accumulate money and save it over the years, and actually, in the end, may not be able to afford a house in the first place. So let's put this in perspective. You have money in a tax-free savings account. You have money in your TFSHA. Sorry, I apologize, getting used to this new term that we're going to be experiencing. So they're allowed to double down their savings. If the average age of the first-time home buyer is roughly at 36, and let's just face it, raising every 5 to 10 years. Well, by the time that Canadian saves up enough money for that down payment, they still may not be able to afford a house. And why? Because of the house prices. We are running into a little situation here in Canada where we are running our economy kind of off the model of increasing immigration, increasing our workforce. But what's that doing? It's increasing our population, therefore making more demand for housing when we don't even have enough housing as it is. What needs to be done here to solve this problem? Number one, and most importantly, is for our government to lighten up the borrowing rules so that it allows Canadians to be able to buy a house. All right, that's the number one factor. Now, I've done numerous other videos, fantastic YouTube videos talking about affordability, immigration, supply and demand, and all that stuff. So please go back, check those out. But more importantly, what I'm talking about here is, the government's forcing and trying to push Canadians to save money. And I'm all about saving money for first-time home ownership. And I believe more important than ever, home ownership is key, because that will become an asset for your life that you will be able to use and build equity in and potentially buy other real estate. Or when we're in situations like this, dealing with interest rates, you may be able to get a line of credit and help you buffer your life. That's the challenge. So many people right now are living off debt. And I ask myself, but here is the government raising these interest rates. Canadians are borrowing off these interest rates. I get the premises. They do not want Canadians to do this, but there's a lot of Canadians still doing it just so they can live. So with that being said, what the government needs to do is lessen the borrowing restrictions, such as the stress test. I can appreciate the stress test. I understand it. They didn't want Canadians to go into foreclosure and all that stuff. But guess what? How about you open it up so that Canadians can buy a house? So really, we need to focus on what the government can do for us and lightening the restrictions that bankers have to lend money to people to buy houses. That pretty much is the major solution to the problem. This new homebuyer tax-free savings kind of account is kind of just something personally that I feel the government has created to make them again look like they're doing something to combat this affordability issue. And is it the answer? It's not the answer. It's an opportunity for young Canadians to save money again. I'm never opposed to that, but there is so much more the government can be doing. And right now it starts with making borrowing easier. What's the difference between the TFSA and this first-time homebuyer saving account? To be honest, there's not much. They actually function as the exact same thing. But what tax-free savings account does is there is only a certain amount you can put in there. So once that gets capped, a young Canadian can't really put any more money in there. So they've kind of opened this caveat up where there's another account now you can kind of save money. Again, you ask yourself, well, why didn't they just allow a young Canadian to, if they haven't bought a house, allow them to put more money in just their tax-free savings account? It's kind of the same thing. So that's kind of where it's at. They're kind of two of the same. It just allows for you to save more in another account that's whereas the tax-free savings account's capped. I often get asked, what can I do now to buy a house? The best thing that you can do is go to your mom and dad and ask for help. As much as many of you don't want to do this, your parents are fantastic people and they want to help you buy a house. If you have the opportunity and the parents have the means, take a loan from them. And that is the easiest way, in all honesty, right now to enter this housing market. The bank of mom and dad is going to become more important than ever. Generational wealth is going to become more important than ever. I am right now working very hard and diligently so my kids can have the opportunity for home ownership. So that starts with us as parents to look to the future. And I got to be honest, I talk to so many parents out there concerned about affordability for their kids. 22-year-old kids, 25-year-old kids, Shawn, what am I going to do? I don't think my kid's ever going to be able to buy a house. I don't think my kid's ever going to get a job that will allow them to afford this house. I say to them, guys, how are you doing financially? Is there an opportunity that you can help them out to help them get in? And they all answer, Shawn, that's exactly what I'm thinking. What do we have to do? Where do we have to start? So there's lots of things that the David DeLaat real estate team can do to help you guide you through this process, help you understand achieving home ownership, and again, understand what borrowing may look at. There is definitely opportunities with some of our fantastic mortgage partners as well that have different options for home ownership. So this is where it starts. And then again, also too, it really starts with our government working with the cities to help create a supply of homes.